Thank you. Thank Yeah. Yeah. Today I felt inspired to put the whole thing all into one sensible whole so we can understand it all easier. I'd like to start with the experience that I've had in
2007.
2007. Yeah, which actually started the whole ball rolling, even though I had an experience with Bhagavan Maharshi, but it was in 19. In
2007.
2007. Yeah, this particular one. Yeah, I'd like to tell you about it because it puts everything together very simply in a nice package. Um, I was out to dinner with my wife, which was Sylvia at the time, the 2007. And everything was going well. We had a nice dinner. Then we went home. When I got home, I started, for some reason or other, become feverish. And we didn't know why, but the fever kept getting worse and worse. And to make a long story short, it went up to 105. Sylvia took my temperature and, and she said, "Oh, Bert, we better call 911 because you're burning up." But I said no, because at this point, I think it's a spiritual experience I'm having because my eyes can see better than I've ever seen before. And but anyway, the temperature kept going up, went up to 200 to 106, and then it broke down, and I started trembling. The trembling was all over. Okay, so this went on for quite a while. The trembling and the fever made it impossible for me to either rest or eat. And this went on for 3 or 4 days. At the end of the fourth day, I believe, early morning, I knew I was dying. And I couldn't even lift my head off the pillow. Immediately, Sylvia called the ambulance, 911, and they took me to the hospital, the Vancouver General. When I arrived there on the gurney, I had an out-of-body experience as soon as I got there. And I imagine I had died at that point, but I was so alive, so clear. But the thing that stuck with me since then, and this is what made everything so clear to me, is this, that whenever I looked at the people around me, I knew everything about them. For example, I'm looking here at this man, and I knew his history, his marriage, his children, his goals, the hopes, the beliefs, everything about him I knew. And then I would look at another one, the doctor or a patient, and I knew everything about them. After several people like this, it became very clear that what I was seeing was myself in different people. Now, was the biggest lesson I've ever learned in my life because we all believe that we are separate from one another. And the one truth of life, the only truth there is that everything is one. And and I decided really from then on never to separate. There is no separate individual. The problems, the fears, the anxieties, everything that we suffer from is because we think we are separate from this one. This one, we'll call it at this point God or pure awareness. But this one is the whole truth, is the entire truth, and is missed by practically everyone who try to understand themselves and life. So now, and incidentally, I have to tell you this. At that point, I didn't know that what I saw in the people was seeing myself in them. I was them, being them. I felt everything that they felt. I knew what they were thinking. But at the same time, I was still what is called me looking and feeling and experiencing. And at that point, the experience of oneness for the first time became clear to me. After that, I saw a light, and this light kept getting brighter and brighter, and this enveloped me, this light. And at that point, I knew more love, unconditional love, than I've ever known in my life. I was lucky to have a great mother, a mother so loving and beautiful. But this light was 1,000 times more loving than my mother ever was. And this light was intelligent. There was music about it. There was as if there are others, but I didn't see anybody. And I didn't want to leave this light at all. At one point, I was able to see also the hospital I was in, because I was everywhere and I didn't have a body. But I saw myself lying on the gurney next to Sylvia. Sylvia was looking at my body, and her face was so pained, you know, and then all of a sudden I remembered that in the body we suffer a lot. But you never knew that at this point I was the happiest man on earth. And at that point, I zoomed into my body. Now, my body was very, very sick. I had lesions all over, black, blue, red. My face was gaunt, you know, very thin. I looked a mess. And the doctors came over to look at me. But there was one thing that happened. You see, when I saw Sylvia looking so sad, I felt as if I wanted to see her happy. And as soon as I entered the body and she looked at me, she became so happy. She had a big smile on her face that I didn't die after all. I came back. How it happened, I cannot tell you. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. Sylvia at that point became happy to, all I have to say is smile or look at her, and she breaks out in joy, absolute joy. Now, when a doctor approached me and he saw that I was laughing and happy, he told the nurse next to him that I'm an idiot, that I don't know what is doing. Maybe I went out of my mind at the moment. But the happiness was real, it was joyous. But anyway, they grabbed us both and they put us in a room. It was very dark, no windows, no light. But they didn't mind. We were so happy, and she was happy because I'm still alive with her. Anyway, she didn't have anywhere to sleep except to lie on the cold floor. And they held us there, I don't know how many hours, maybe close to 2 days. I don't know for sure. And then I was tested again and found there was nothing wrong with me. And I was in hospital. So Sylvia, at that point, started doing some shopping of organic food because I told her that I cannot possibly eat the hospital food. The meat was just like rubber, and the eggs were boiled for about 3 or 4 days. And anyway, so I told her if she could bring me some organic food and she did. She did every day. After 2 or 3 days, I was home. Now, one thing that I haven't told you is this, that when I was in the light was so loving, so unconditionally loving that I never knew love like that. And if that's what's going to be Burt Harding from now on, after his body goes away, then I'll be looking forward to it. Also, of course, I don't want to leave my darling behind. But it was great joy. And the one thing that the light told me, now you might say the light told you. Yes, I felt it right inside me, like a voice saying, you'll be okay in 4 to 5 days. Don't do anything. Just be as you are doing now, and you'll be okay. Anyway, to make a long story short, In about 5 days' time, I was sent home, perfectly normal. The next day, I was cycling. And now, what have I done with this? Well, the first lesson that I've learned, and the most important of all, is the oneness we all are. We study different literature, we have different religions, we have different beliefs, but it's all one. There is no difference from one and another. And this one, call it pure awareness, pure being, or God. I like the word God because God is all that there is. And it is all there is, really. It's the holy happiness and joy and peace and love that we are inside ourselves, but we do not know it because we identify with outside. Now, as it happens, I became more dedicated than ever to do some work and help people. And now to make another story, how I came about creating the 5 points, which I employed into my, what do you call the everyday thing that they did? Sky types. Skypes. Yeah, yeah. And the Skypes became very popular at that time too. But I thought, no, when I get Skype, I put them through the 5 steps. This is the best thing because the 5 steps is what I learned from my NDE experience. Now, these are the 5 steps. The 5 steps are important because they lead you from the mind into the heart. So this means that we are so caught in our mind, in our thoughts, that we do not know what is real. Really, we do not know what is real. The world is a one big dream, really, but we take it very seriously. We take it as if this is the law, but it isn't. There's only one law, and it's called love or awareness or God. Let me go into these 5 points, how they came to be. I received a call from a woman. She wasn't elderly, it was about your age, but she was told by her doctor that she has contracted a very serious cancer in her breast. And as the law should have it, she called me. And she said, could you help me, Burt, because I don't want to take chemotherapy. Chemotherapy doesn't seem to do the job. It will, take all my health and energy away. And is there anything that you can tell me? And I said, well, we can work out with your state of mind at the moment. And of course, the more I talked to her, the more I realized how frightened she was of death. She was absolutely frightened, that she was going to die. The thought of death was like a stranglehold to her. So the first thing that I said to her, believe me, death is beautiful. Death takes you into your true energy, to your true being. And I can tell you because it happened to me. Well, the moment I told her that, she listened. She began to listen, and she listened like no one I ever knew. And she said, well, how do I deal with this fear? I said, well, first of all, what is fear? See, fear is a belief that truth doesn't exist. It is the opposite of truth. It is the thought that we die, okay? So I said, let's take it apart, first of all. What causes all the fears and everything? It's the mind, the thoughts in the mind. Now, the mind is full of thoughts. Most people live from those thoughts day after day after day. And then they wonder why life is so miserable, why they're so unhappy, why they are depressed. You see? So I discussed to her these thoughts, and she told me that she's filled with these thoughts. So then I went into the first step. I said, well, first we're going to deal with these thoughts. And then as you learn step by step to bring them into the heart, then you'll begin to realize, because only when you bring them into the heart, into your very being, your energy being, your very seeing, it is only then that you're able to see what the hell you're telling yourself. Because these thoughts represent not only conditions from the past and all the conditioning around us, but they are everywhere, these thoughts. We don't create them personally in the sense, I want to think about awful thoughts. They just come to us and we believe them. Now, here's the first truth that I would like to share with you. The truth in your head are not real. They are thoughts. So we started out first with the mind, and the mind is full of thoughts. Are you able to look at these thoughts? So then I said, okay, let's do the following. Close your eyes, focus on the spot between the eyebrows, I said, become very still and keep listening to me. I said, let's see what happens. So I said to her, okay, now watch these thoughts as you would looking out your window and seeing a parade of people who are going by. I said, you're not attached to them. You just, it's not wrong, it's not right, it's not bad, it's not good. You just parade of thoughts, but you don't identify with them. You just see them going back and forth, which make up your so-called reality. I said, okay, now let's give you 2 minutes to do this. And so I gave her 2 minutes to watch these thoughts. Then after what I felt when 2 minutes were over, I said, no, I want you to look at your thoughts again. But this time, let's see, the number 2 is to, is to look at these thoughts as, to look at these thoughts as thoughts. just pardon me here. I'm trying to keep as straight as possible with what came to me. So now you saw the thoughts rambling back and forth, but at this point you did not identify with them. You just saw them as thoughts. If you succeeded doing that, now the step number 2 is look at these thoughts as thoughts. Now, what does that mean? It means that what you're seeing is not real. It's just a thought. You see, when a thought is believed in, it becomes your reality, because your vision,
the power you have, right?
The power you have, you're seeing. What is that called? Conceptualization. Everything is dealt with what you are believing in your mind. So right now, see these thoughts as thoughts. Don't call them anything else but thoughts. So okay, don't. So then we stood there, and when I felt that 2 minutes went by, we went into number 3. Now I said, what I'd like you to do with these thoughts is to look at them as if they are separate one from another, so that in this case there is a space in between. If you don't see the space, and people as a rule don't, make a point to actually see that there's a thought, and then boom, there's another one, and there's another one. Become aware of that space between one thought and another. It's as if you're asking yourself, I wonder what the next thought is going to be. Okay, and you wait for it. The waiting might be just 1 or 2 seconds, but the extent of time that it takes you to watch means that you have become an unbiased observer of the truth, of the space between thoughts. That gap between thoughts is the real you. So then we did that for about 2 minutes, and she was doing rather well. And she began to really concentrate. And at this point, as we're doing that, she's forgetting about her impending death. The fear went away and she's getting involved. And then we went into number 4. Number 4 is to continue seeing the space between thoughts, asking the question, I wonder what the next thought is going to be. But this time, be aware. Just be aware. Okay, now awareness is what we call the heart. Awareness is your true nature. Okay, the mind is full of thoughts. The awareness of the thought is when the thought has become the heart. You see? So this is the difference. When a person awakens, they become pure awareness. They become pure being. And so they can see what is going on unbiased. And at that point, she did that. And she was aware. She was aware of the space between the thoughts, and she began to feel, rather relaxed. She began to feel good. The mind became quieter and quieter. And then I said, okay, now in that quiet, let's build on that quiet right now. And I want you to visualize the following. Okay, now remain still as you are, keep your eyes closed, but now get rid of everything that is a thought. And there was a question, what do you mean everything is a thought? Well, I said, the body is a thought, manifested. I said, everything is a thought. So at this point, with your eyes closed, pretend that you are totally empty, empty of your body, empty of the fact that you're a woman, empty of your age, empty of your name, empty of your past, empty of your future, empty of your family, empty of everything, completely empty. Okay. And believe it or not, she did well, and she kept on going with this, feeling the emptiness. And then I asked her, I said, okay, now you've been completely empty for the last 2 minutes or so. And I said, have you? And she said, yes. She said, I feel actually very relaxed. I feel quite good. And then I asked her, I said, now what is left? What is that something that you didn't add, you couldn't get rid of? It's always there. What is it? But she couldn't come up with it. And that word is the key and the point of all healing and all advancement. Okay, so the point is, when you are completely gone, unremembered, you're totally free of thought. Okay, now what is left? I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you, I won't be fair to you. You have to come up with it. What is left is who you really are. What is left is the truth of you. What is left is the greatest forgiveness of everything that you did wrong, quote, wrong in the past. It's like a cleansing. It's a wonderful one. I didn't realize at the time how cleansing it was, because after we were through and she was actually smiling, and I said, are you still afraid? She said, yes, but thank you. Can we do this again? And so we did this again and again. Well, after a few weeks, she got a call from her doctor that he wanted to ascertain that she's going okay and what to do with her condition. She went to see the doctor, and the doctor said, you're in remission. There's no cancer anymore. It's gone. Well, you can imagine how I felt and how she felt, you see? So now the power that when you begin to rise above your negative thinking of the thoughts that are never real, they are thoughts. But what is real is you, your heart. Your heart is your pure being. Your pure being is always in love. Did you know that? Because it is love itself. But it's not loving particularly something or someone, although it could be that too. But it is just love. It just feels this love continuously. And because it knows of our oneness. Nobody is separate from anybody else. We're all one being. So now that's how I discovered the 5 points, okay? And which I still keep using them. The unfortunate thing about the 5 points is that when we do it in a class situation and people are together, there's a conflict sometimes, because the important thing is that I talk to them as they are going from one stage to from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see, I talk to them and I guide them point by point, which I did with her. Anyway, okay, so now you know the 5 points briefly. But the content of it is being done to bring the thought back into the heart. The heart is who you are. The heart is awareness. Awareness has no ego. Awareness is. You are aware. If you are with 100 people and there's a plane making noise ahead and everybody looks up at the plane, all 100 awareness are seeing the same plane. Okay? So in other words, your awareness and the awareness of the other being is exactly the same. Not the thoughts, the awareness. The awareness makes us all one. There's oneness. That oneness is the only truth there is. There is no philosophy, there is no religion, there is no path. There's only one God, one truth, you see, and that is the truth. When we want only that one truth, then we begin to understand things we never did before, and we can keep going deeper. About 3.5 years ago, I had a revelation. I was with my daughter, and we were talking and did some videos on the air. And at one point, I was asked, Burt, what have you really learned in all these years that you've been doing spirituality? And I said, not much, really. I just learned to trust I am. And that's all I said. I've learned to trust I am. See, the word I am is very, very powerful. And it was after I said it that I realized what I actually said. Because the I am is the very name of God. It was Moses who went up into the mountain, and in a burning bush, he called out and he said, God, what shall I call you? And the voice said, I am that I am. So when you say I am, not saying your name after, just I am. The I am is universal. I am, you are, I am. Everyone else is I am. We're all I am. That's the oneness. When you put something after I am, that's ego. I am this body. I am this world. I am this nationality. I am this religion. I am, right? The moment you define I am, you've lost it. But I am in its pure state. I am. It is so beautiful because it brings you into the pivotal point of knowing, of seeing. And it is not a belief. It is not a religion. It is not something you read. It is something that you finally realize that the moment you look at another human being, you're seeing yourself. And how you see that other person is how you see you. What you judge other people as having is you are judging yourself. In other words, we are all one being. That is the greatest teaching. Nobody can go beyond that. That is it. And that one being is called God or pure awareness, pure being. It doesn't matter what you call it. Now, what I'd like to do now is how answering this I am brought me into a point where I said to my daughter, well, it's time for you to take you home. So drove her over to the airport and left her there. And then I came back home with this in mind to write out, what have I learned? What is this I am? How could I explain it? Because incidentally, I didn't tell you this. I received many letters, people asking me, what do you mean by I am? And so I said, well, why don't I write an article and I send it to these people? Did you see? And that's it. So I went to bed. I had a good sleep, actually. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was awoken by a power. I can't name it. I don't know. Maybe it happened to you. And I'm sure anybody who's listening has had this experience. You feel as if something is taking over. Something is telling you, get up or whatever. And I felt very impelled to wake up. I went on the blackboard. I had a board here next to the washroom in which Suzy makes all my appointments on the Skype sessions. Anyway, and on it I wrote 4 unknown facts of reality. Now, remember, I am not thinking as I'm writing these. It's like my hand just going on by itself, you know, point one, point two, point three, point four. And anyway, point number one was that everything is one energy. Everything is just like a huge ball of unbounded energy. This unbounded energy is love, unconditional love. This means that everybody that is born, everybody that is a living being, is themselves love by nature. They want to be loved and they want to love. You see, it always reminds me of puppies and dogs and looking into their eyes and their loving nature. And we're all like that. It's all love. We're made of that love. But the moment we try to obtain love and control it, I want you to like me, I want you to love me, you see, and separate from the other person. Instead of we loving each other as one, we both demand it on our own terms as individuals. Then you lost it. Because love is unconditional. Love is the very nature of truth, the very nature of being. Excuse me. So this love is an unbounded energy. And this unbounded energy is pure awareness, pure being. At one point in nature, which I don't want to go into, it becomes convoluted. They say there was the birth of the new age, the human, when the body was formed, when consciousness came into being. So consciousness is not this unbounded energy. Consciousness is part of this unbounded energy, but this unbounded energy is just pure being, pure awareness. But we told to call this consciousness in order to manifest a form for this being, you see? So this is when we took on form. Maybe it was trillions and trillions and billions of years ago. I don't know. That's not the point, though. The point is that it had a beginning, and we thought it was the fall of man. It isn't actually the fall of man. It isn't the sinful thing that we've been taught it is. But the reason we called it the sin or called it a fall is because the moment we took on a form, we forgot the spirit, the pure awareness that we are, the pure being that we are, which is unconditional love. And the moment we lost it, we begin to behave greedy. I want, I need, I must have, you see? And so we forgot that we are more than just a body. So the body was considered the fall of man or the first sin. But here is the beautiful thing, okay, is that this very being, now you might think I am going to be religious here. I am not. I don't like religion because it's a controlled thing. But the essence itself, the being itself, the awareness, the one state of all, appeared as one human being called Jesus Christ. I believe this with all my heart, and it's recently that I came to know it even more than I've ever done before. I'm not, like I said, I'm not religious and I'm not a Christian, but it did take a form of a human being. And this human being had only one simple goal: to show us that he is love. And we are all that very same love. And so he worked as a fisherman. He worked as a, what was it that he did?
They say he's a carpenter. They say he's a stonemason,
Stonemason, whatever.
a rabbi.
It was, yeah,
teacher.
Yeah, they're right. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, there's something very interesting happened now in the fifth dimension that we're in, is that many Jews have turned messianic. In other words, they hated the word Jesus. They hated it because the Christians kept saying to the Jews, you crucified Jesus, okay? But in truth, they didn't. What happened is that the Jews never believed that this humble being playing as a fisherman, playing that, although he created many healings, they saw him as just a man. It is recently that Jews have opened themselves up to the fact that Jesus came down 2,000 years ago in his messianic journey to tell the Jews that we are one nation, one God. Now, there was a report that 600,000, right?
350,000.
350,000, but that was
Something like that.
months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, have turned Messianic Jews.
I think it started in the 60s.
They're still Jews, but they finally realized that Jesus was their Messiah, and they didn't know it. You see? So anyway, now why am I mentioning this? Because this vast intelligence, okay, it has come down into this one form to teach us love. We are now moving into the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is the spiritual dimension. Many years ago in the 30s, we were in the third dimension. The third dimension is very brutal. It's full of wars, hatred, separation. And there was a lot of chaos in those days. In fact, 2 world wars took place in the third dimension. And then the fourth dimension came in when the woman came into her own glory, because the woman's power is great, but it's never been, what is the word, admitted, accepted? Okay, because the feminine power is the real spiritual force in the human. And so the woman is becoming teacher now. Things are changing. That the fourth dimension is when the women became more prominent in the spiritual field as teachers. But now we are moving in the fifth dimension. And the fifth dimension is exactly what I'm talking about. We are realizing that we are not an individual, personal, separate human being. We are the whole, playing as separate, but we are the whole. We are God itself. We are the one itself. And when you can see it in another, you can see the one in another, that's when you begin to understand that we are all really one. This is one love. Love is the one thing that joins everything together completely. So this is the greatest teaching that you can come to understand. Now, this will be not accepted completely because we are now in the fifth dimension, and the fifth dimension is very much bringing a lot of changes. These changes that we are having now, you know, oh my God, that there's so many changes. And I don't want to go into it, but there are many fears and there are things that are happening which will bring the one change. But it's changing us from being so workaholic into more human. For example, it's been said in the Course in Miracles by, what's his name? The teacher.
Kenneth Wapnick.
Kenneth Wapnick. He said, we all go through 3 stages. First as a child.
First as a camel.
First as a camel, right? It's walking blindly, you know, and not knowing anything about it. And it just eats and lives like that. Then as a lion. The lion is when self-conscious energy comes in. I want to be important. I want to amount to something. I want to find the job of my life. I want to make money. I want to go someplace. But we put God aside, you see? And so, but it becomes the religion of the moment, the philosophy, the belief in the moment. I want to be somebody. But then we wake up into the third. It's called the child. Now, the child does not mean an innocent child as without intelligence, but rather innocent in the sense that it is not harmful anymore because it sees its oneness everywhere. You see? And so this is the stage we're moving in now. This is called the fifth dimension. We are moving into that dimension full of love, joy, and peace because we're understanding that we're not divided. We are all one being. It is not a religion, this one being. It is one being. See? And so when I understood this better, when I first started on with the Course in Miracles, and Course in Miracles was given to us by Jesus himself. And although I've never seen Jesus personally, I know a few who have experienced Jesus, their vision of him. And so this is what is happening now, believe it or not, and I can see it clearly everywhere. The changes that are happening all over are the changes that we need in order to get to know our divine inheritance, or whatever you call it. Like we all have this ability to see our oneness in each other. There is no separation. There are no different nationalities. There are nothing. It's all one being in different bodies. You see? And when we begin to understand that, we begin to understand the one thing above all called love. Love is the only thing that matters. Love is the only thing that is real. And God is love. See, God is the one being in all of this one force. Anyway, I know I took my time into doing this, but I wanted to include it because sometimes I feel that when we talk about general things, how to be important, how to make more money, and how to become this and how to become that, we lose the very purpose of our existence. And the purpose of our existence is to become, not to become, we're already that, but is to know that your nature is true love, is divine love. You know, it's a precious thing when I see dogs that are so precious and so loving. You know, sometimes I think maybe whatever. But they have that spark, that oneness, knowing. You look into their eyes and you feel that joy, that sweetness. And I guess the child in us, the one in us that grows up to understand the oneness is the child, really. Is embodied as this one child, but with wisdom, with intelligence, and with courage and fearlessness. So, is there anything you'd like to add?
Back to your 5 steps, which were really beautiful, and also in context with the Course in Miracles, those 5 steps essentially are covered. I think it's like chapter 2 in the Course. It talks about cause and effect. And it says the cause of everything that we perceive or are suffering, essentially, because we blame our perceptions for our suffering, are coming from our thoughts. And your 5 steps it's a beautiful forgiveness exercise where we can actually see the power of that and how it's happening.
That's right. Yeah.
So they're amazing.
and we're all the same. We're all in the same boat, really. We're all one love. And when we begin to understand that no nationality, no color, nothing, these things don't matter. These are just the variety of the energy that we are, different bodies, different sects, whatever. But all of us are divinely imbued with this one force, pure being, pure love, pure joy. And when we begin to understand it's all under one God, one being, appearing as billions and billions of different forms, it is then we begin to understand we're all that one being. We cannot separate from it.
And A Course in Miracles is a purely non-dualistic teaching.
Yes, it is a non-dualistic teaching. Yes, it is not a religion. It's not a philosophy. Yeah, it is. It gives you that realization as you begin to read it. Yeah.
And it takes you back to I've heard it said that the book is the instructions on our journey and a metamorphosis into Christ.
Yes.
Into the oneness.
To the oneness. Yes.
Kind of like how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly.
That's right.
So through forgiveness, we come to recognize the truth of who we really are, which is pure spirit, not a body at all, not trapped in a world at all.
That's right.
But simply this beautiful free spirit that, as you just said a few minutes ago, about our inheritance, our divine inheritance. So our divine inheritance is really our recognition of ourselves as the equivalent of God, pure spirit with all the creative potential and pure love, just like God is, and not the limited body we thought ourselves to be. So it's completely a mistaken identity that we have.
Okay.
We have a question from Sheila, if I could read it to you, Burt.
Okay.
We have a from Sheila. Yeah, the question says, is everyone moving into the fifth dimension, regardless of level of consciousness?
Yes.
Did you hear the question?
I don't know whether you finished or not. Have you finished it?
Is every one of us moving to the fifth dimension of the level of consciousness? I guess what she meant may be that regardless of whether people are awakened or not, or which of spiritual kind of enlightenment that they're at.
Right. For instance, certain countries are still third dimension, right?
Yeah.
So fifth dimension, it doesn't necessarily mean every person on the planet is going into that dimension, or does it? That's her question.
Finally, okay, the whole point. Okay, let's say we're moving into the fifth dimension. This means that all of us are moving closer and closer to the realization that we are not just separate individuals. We are really one being, and that one being is to go home. And home is, we call it heaven, we call it, doesn't matter what you call it, but it's the right purpose, the right being. It's very hard to put in. Yeah.
Yeah. As how I understand the dimension is, I think that dimension doesn't really discriminate beyond time and space. The reason I'm saying that every society, we have people at different dimensions. And in any time, we have people in different dimensions. It depends on the, I guess, the awareness.
That's right. The awareness.
Let's say, look at Canada, right? It's such a high dimension Canada compared to other parts of the world. However, we can say that everyone here is in the 5 dimension, because 50, I think a lot of people, they're at different
That's
dimensions.
Right. Most people.
I think even one person, I think even one person like myself are in different dimensions under different circumstances sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. But eventually we're all heading towards that oneness which we are.
Everyone's included, right? Nobody gets left behind.
Right.
Nobody gets left behind.
That's the ultimate.
Yes. Yeah. We think of them as
that very real, like that very awareness.
Yes. And we're not talking about beliefs. We're talking about truth. The truth of our being is in our very, very heart. When we become very still and throw away all beliefs, all religions, nothing, you begin to see that there's only one love. And that means that everyone you see is yourself in a different form. We're all oneness. It is all one. There is no prejudice. There is no definition. There is no good or bad. There is this oneness. Once we realize it, we call it, oh, we've awakened to the truth. But it is not a religion, and it is not a philosophy, and it is not what one has studied. It is what one has awakened into oneself, the truth of being. It is love. The word is love, the oneness of love. And the oneness of love is, of course, known as God, because it is one.
So, Bert, you think the direction that we're always upwards in terms of dimension, right? We don't go back. We don't go like to fourth, third,
We could go
second.
back if we've been trained that way. If we get, for example, I don't know, maybe you meet someone who believed the separation. There is nothing separate. We're all one being. It is so beautiful, you know. When I look at you, I don't see another being separate from me. I love you because in truth, we are one, really. You know, that's the way that's the way it really is. If we become different in beliefs, then we might separate, yes. But that doesn't mean I stop loving you. There is no one that we can stop loving. The reason why there are many weaknesses in life, many diseases, many things going wrong, it is because we differentiate in our seeing. But in truth, we are all one being in different forms. But in our oneness, in our deep love oneness, we're all the same. We're all that one, you know.
So it's possible for an individual
Bert.
who's seemingly awake can get re-caught in their ego at different times. So it can,
Yes.
So not only, so
And-
you, like Wei was saying, can you go back and forth even as an individual? And you can get very caught in your ego. And
You can
sometimes it's
yes.
quick and you're right back, and other times
Right.
it tricks you
That's
a little
right.
more, it takes you a
Yes,
little further
yes.
away.
But you will find that every time you
Yeah.
get caught and it chases you away, you're not happy.
That's
You
right.
see, you're not happy. So this is why
That's
how
right.
you can gauge yourself. You can gauge yourself not by philosophy or reading many books like I did. You study this and you study that. No, there is no big study. If I am not happy at the moment, then I'm not in the truth. That's it. It's as simple as that. If I am loving, that very love will take over. And love means that you see yourself in everything. You are life itself. That's the beautiful thing. There is nothing that is separate from anything else. It's all one. Getting to know itself.
So when we get caught in our ego and we find ourselves projecting out onto someone else, we forgive because it's really us we're forgiving ourselves for a
That's
temporary
right.
lapse of movement into the
That's
ego
right,
where we
right.
had a
And
separate
not-
interest for
And
a
not
little
to
while.
feel guilty about
And not to
that.
feel guilty.
Right. Never feel guilty for the way you find yourself. In fact, you just say, oh, thank you for making me aware that I was living a lie. And then smile and, you know, and go on being happy. Because the truth is happiness. The truth is joy. The truth is love, really. Love is the very secret of life. Love is the whole truth itself, you know. What is so beautiful too about Jesus who appeared in that life, that he was crucified. But even in that crucifixion, he carried the cross and they beat him and bled him and, you know, yet he arose again. And that's a fact. It's been witnessed by thousands that he arose again and he came back before he went up again. So this is one of the greatest. It is not a religion. It is not a belief based for some people, white or black or red or yellow. It doesn't matter. It's this is the way it happened. And when we accept that, you see, for example, you know, somebody might say, "But Bert, you're being prejudiced." I've gone through so many different beliefs and things, you know, and you know, I'm not a young man. How old am I?
88 and a half. No,
Yeah.
not that.
Anyway, but well, what I believe that I've learned a lot about life and living, and love is the only thing that makes sense. And love simply means this, not a zero, nothing, but a oneness. Everything is one. When we love, we're only happy when we love. No matter what you belong to or anything else, it is love. And one thing that I've discovered is that the teachings of Jesus in the book, the oneness, well, what is the book we're studying on?
A Course in Miracles.
A Course in Miracles, right? Yeah, I believe that that book is quite unique. And the more I study it, the more I want to be one with it, because as I read it and practice it, I feel the happiness that's there all the time, and fears drop away. So it is very simple once we accept the truth. And the truth is not a religion, it is not a philosophy, it is not a belief, period. It is simply seeing yourself as one with all others. We're all one, really. You know? And that's what I wanted to do
Hey,
today.
Burt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question. Back to your NDE, right? You have made two transitions. If I can call it transition, you entered into the two doors. For example, when you moved from an ordinary state to an NDE state, it's across the store, enter the door. And when you come back to your ordinary state, you entered or come back through that door again. You go through those doors. How does your memory work? Do you realize that
That's
you've
a
gone through
very,
it right
that's a
away, right
beautiful question.
after?
Yeah, that is so beautiful. Yeah, and this is it. You know, sometimes a part of me wants to experience the death of birds, not the death, because I don't want to be separate from
No,
this.
not the death of the body is not the same as the death of the ego.
Yeah, it's not the same. But there are moments when I feel so one, you know, and the happiness has no words, has no way to describe itself. It's so incredible, and it has nothing to do with a special separate religion or separate belief. It's not. And the belief that has come down to us in the Course in Miracles is universal. More people now are taking it up, more than ever. So what was the point I'm trying to make? Is that
about going through the doors when you come back from your NDE.
yes, yeah.
Do you realize, you remember right away?
You remember right away.
Do you remember, for example, when you come back to your body, right? When you after you saw everybody operating, after you have the third eye, after you know back to your body, do you remember what happened, right? Like, do you realize, or are you aware of what happened?
Physically, I know nothing.
Right after a few days.
Physically, I know nothing about birth, really. As a matter of fact, I don't know whether it's my age or I don't know what's happening, but my memory is getting waylaid, you know. As a matter of fact, I begin to think maybe there's no memory at all. I never existed before, because when I remember, and I sometimes I keep talking over and over again what I did so many things in the past, but then it becomes all like a dream. And it's a beautiful dream. Maybe I did it, maybe I didn't, I don't know. But right now, I'm blind, but I am very happy. I am very much at peace. I am, I know that God is all that there is. And I'm not religious, okay, not at all. But I believe in this one religion of love, that we are all one being, all of us. There's no nationality, there's no superior or inferior race. There aren't other planets conceived of different beliefs. It's all one. Different forms, but it's all one being. And when we begin to understand that, we begin to see the oneness of it all. That's the heavenly life. That's the beautiful life. Really, it answers everything, and it's not afraid of death. It's not afraid of anything. It's just life, knowing itself, expressing itself. And our job, whether we are teachers or whether we are parents or whether we are friends, is to help others to see this by loving them. Look at your children, for example. My gosh, such beautiful ages, and the joy that they have sometimes in feeling so alive in the experience that they've had. You know, so
They're pure love right in front of me.
exactly,
It's amazing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if you don't discipline them, but
I
love
feel
them,
like I'm living with God.
you are.
Not God as a person, but
Yeah,
God as love manifested in children, right?
exactly. Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah. Mm.
Anyhow, my last question to you, I think a lot of people want to ask this, Burt, is when you are at a state you feel like you are omnipotent, you know everything, right? You can see everybody, you are one with everyone. When you are in that, how do you know, or after that moment, how do you know for a fact that that is not just a good feeling, but that has some,
Because you know
you
it,
know,
because it makes,
fundamental
yeah,
metaphysical value to it?
it's just a knowing. This is in all of us. I've had so many beliefs in my life. I studied so much. I've done so many things. I traveled practically everywhere. But now at this age, I've reached a point where finally, my mind has become totally present. The past is taking a back seat, and I see the beauty of this moment. And it's very, very simple. But this moment is not based on where you're living or the house or anything. You know, I'm pretty blind right now. I'm hoping that maybe someday I'll begin to see. But it is a beautiful life, really, and the love that your capacity to give, not only yourself, but to someone like I do with my dear one. That kind of love is becomes so pure and beautiful that it enriches every moment. But that richness is not based on an idea. It's based on the fact that you're seeing yourself everywhere. You know, even you ride a bus and there's 50 people there. Some are this way or that way, or look this way or that way, but you're every one of them. And you know it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that love is felt.
great. Burt, yeah. So much, Burt. I feel so grateful as a lot of other people. And you're almost 90 years old and you're just emitting love all the time. You how to love and help other people all the time.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's just love. And I asked people questions. I like to let you know that Laura typed that I just want to thank you all again. I can't get enough of listening to Burt.
Mm. Oh.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you, Burt.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Suzy.
Thanks,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Wei.
Sheila and Laura.